What's up, everybody? So yesterday were the opening statements in Karen Read's retrial. She is on trial for the murder of her ex-boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was a Boston police officer. This took place back on January the 29th, 2022, and her first trial ended with a hung jury last summer. This article comes from NBCnews.com and is linked in the description below. Opening statements in the retrial of Karen Read painted starkly different portraits of the defendant on Tuesday, yesterday. The prosecution alleging she fatally struck her boyfriend with her SUV as the relationship unraveled, and her lawyers argue she was the victim of law enforcement misconduct and cover-up. Now, a documentary on this case came out about a month or so ago, fairly recently. If you Google it, it'll come up. And I wasn't following this case extraordinarily closely when it was happening, when everything was going down last summer with the original trial. I was paying attention a little bit, but not really. But since that documentary came out, I went back and started to read everything and watch everything I could find. I watched a lot of the original trial, which I believe is on Court TV on their YouTube channel, and it is bananas. After I started watching it, I fully understood why it became as popular as it did, despite the fact that it involved a Boston police officer. The cast of characters that were called to the witness stand during this trial were absolutely crazy. I have no idea whether she's innocent or whether she's guilty. I could see it going either way, but man, the witnesses the prosecution called definitely did not do them any favors. They were arguing with the defense attorney. That one girl, I believe her name was Jen McCabe. I could be wrong on that, but I'm still learning everything about this trial, so give me a little leeway with the names here. She was unreal on that stand, but that's why it became so popular, because it was very entertaining from like someone watching it. Like, it was just unreal. And that Trooper Proctor, the fact that he had to get on the witness stand and read a group chat that he had with his buddies for the world to see, it was unreal. The fact that he said those things to his buddies, never once ever thinking that he was going to have to get up in a court of law and read those things publicly. Just the things he said, aside from being extraordinarily inappropriate for anyone to say, let alone one of the investigators, I believe he was, on the case, just bananas. And the fact that he had to read them aloud in a courtroom with cameras there, airing it to the world. I believe he lost his job recently over the whole situation. Just an unreal trial. So the theories largely put forward in Karen Read's publicized first trial on charges of second-degree murder and other alleged crimes in the January 29, 2022 death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. That 9-week trial ended with a hung jury last summer, but there were notable differences in some of the details prosecutors and defense lawyers presented yesterday. Karen Read has repeatedly pressed her case publicly, speaking to reporters outside the courtroom in recent weeks and given lengthy interviews for documentaries and a magazine story. The lead prosecutor, special counsel Hank Brennan, said he intends to rely on Read's own words in what he called her campaign to make public statements. I don't know how often someone on trial for murder gets bail. Maybe it's more common than we think, but I've never seen someone on trial for murder get bail and then give as many interviews and talk as publicly as someone does, or someone did, as much as Karen Read does in this case. She doesn't really shy away from anything. Her face is always in the press. She's always talking, giving interviews, and I don't really know how common that is, but man, she does it all the time. Her statements will confirm what you know from the science and the data. Hank Brennan told the jury, "You're going to hear from her own lips and many of her statements, her admissions to extraordinary intoxication, her admission to being angry at John that night." In a clip that Brennan played for the jury, Reed discussed O'Keefe's death with Dateline. In the interview, she said she could have tagged him in the knee and incapacitated him. "He didn't look mortally wounded as far as I could see, but I could have done something that knocked him out." But could I have done something that knocked him out? Prosecutors used the clip to reinforce the theory they have alleged about O'Keefe's death. Fueled by anger and intoxication, Reed backed her Lexus SUV into him after the couple had an argument. According to prosecutors, she left him for dead outside the Boston area home of Brian Albert, then a police sergeant who was having a gathering that O'Keefe was on his way to. That was another guy that was on the stand that was just one of these, I don't know if it was him or not, but someone like drove somewhere through a military base to throw away a phone and a SIM card. Like, just for people that may or may not be guilty, if they're not guilty of doing something, just truly bizarre behavior. Reed and her lawyers have said she dropped O'Keefe off at Albert's home around midnight and watched him go inside. According to the defense account, when Reed awoke hours later, she panicked after she discovered that O'Keefe never came home. She found him unresponsive outside Albert's home around 6 a.m. the next day, she and her lawyers say. Defense attorney Alan Jackson, I wonder if the singer Alan Jackson is like, what? Why does this guy have to have the same name as me? Countered that the clip Brennan presented to the jury was shown without context. In Jackson's telling, the Dateline interview was presented as if Reed were discussing what was going through her mind when she dropped O'Keefe off at midnight, which she argued was not the case. She's talking about 6 a.m. when she found him, Jackson said, adding that similar statement she made to others were not confessions, but the words of a woman desperately trying to piece together what happened on that tragic night. So he's saying that when she got to the crime scene, she was asking herself, did I hit him? Did I clip him? Because there's another clip, I'm sure they're going to talk about it in here, where it says, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. But she is saying, like, did I hit him? Question mark. I hit him? Question mark. Like, it's not very clear. How the defense was able to address former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor also marked a notable shift. That was the guy that had to read the group chat on the stand. Proctor led the investigation into O'Keefe's death, and he was fired after allegations of misconduct raised during the first trial prompted an internal state police investigation. A state panel conducted that he violated agency rules when he sent derogatory texts about Karen Reed and shared confidential investigative details with non-law enforcement personnel. Calling Proctor a MALIGNANCY that spread through the investigation into O'Keefe's death and Reed's prosecution. Jackson said there was no part of the case that Proctor had not touched. He's been disgraced by his own agency, not by us, by the Massachusetts State Police, investigated, suspended, and fired. That's what Jackson said. Jackson accused Proctor of conducting a biased and corrupt investigation that shielded people that had undisclosed ties, including Albert, from being scrutinized as possible suspects in O'Keefe's death. Albert testified during the first trial that O'Keefe never entered his home the night of his death, though he would have been welcomed with open arms if he had. Brennan did not mention Proctor in his opening statement, and Proctor had not publicly commented on his termination. His family said the state panel's decision unfairly exploits and scapegoats one of their own, a trooper with a 12-year unblemished record. He might have a 12-year unblemished record, but how many times over those 12 years did he do the same thing or something similar and just not get caught. This isn't likely the first time he's ever done something like this. This is just the first time it's ever been publicized, and I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying it's allegedly not likely the first time he's ever done this. It's just the first time that something like this has ever happened, where it was discovered that he did it. During the first trial, Proctor acknowledged that his comments about Karen Read dehumanized her, but said his conduct did not compromise the integrity of the investigation. So that's where we're at. This trial, the retrial, if anything like the first one, is going to be absolutely wild, very entertaining, but the most important thing is finding out exactly what happened to John O'Keefe. I've watched the documentaries, I've watched all kinds of interviews with Karen Read, I've read everything I could find, and I still don't know. I could see it going both ways, but neither side is doing themselves any favors. If everybody, the police, just did their job properly, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. The truth would have come out either way. But once again, police seemingly, allegedly, have botched the investigation greatly, leading to all of these what-ifs. But what do you think happened to John O'Keefe? Do you think it was Karen Read? Do you think it happened inside the house? Do you think the dog was involved? Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.